Women of Reddit, what are some obvious hints that you made to guys you were into that flew right over their heads? Before I started dating my husband, I went swimming at his apartment and asked to take a shower so I could rinse the chlorine out of my hair. Freshly dyed red. Wanted to keep it nice. I asked him to untie my bikini top BC I couldn't reach it and he did. I let it fall and turned around to face him topless and he had left me alone and shut the door behind him. He was a decent guy. I give him props for that. I was flirting with this guy all night. He seemed into me. He said yes. This is the coolest thing to happen to me, but I can't tell all my friends because they don't have Reddit. Can I take a nap on your bed again? I'm going to take off my pants because I can't sleep with them on. Do you want to take a nap too? Sent a guy friend a picture of me in just a tank top, pulling the lower part of it down to cover my lady bits. Honestly, a really sexy picture, I thought. Also let him know I was bored and lonely. Nothing came from it. He told me a couple weeks later that he had a huge crush on me, but I had moved out of town. I went out with girl from work to lounge. I was 19 at the time and she was 22. She ordered an alcoholic drink. I commented on how I can't order one cause I'm not old enough. She asked me if I wanted to try some of hers, which I happily accepted. Instead of letting me sip from the cup, she takes a big swig, presses her lips against mine and lets the liquor pour into my mouth. I thought it was so they won't see me drink. Then she did it one more time. Clearly I wasn't getting the hint, so she left it at that. I'm a dumbus. She invited me to her flat to hang out, so we hung out. After about an hour she said, "Do you want to leave?" I said no. Why? She said, "Because I brought you back here so we could duck and you've been trying to make small talk for the last hour." Oh. And that's the story of how I lost my virginity at 21 years old. When I was pretty young, I was at my then girlfriend's house and she wandered off to the bathroom. Eventually she called my name. I wandered over and found her in the bathroom doorway, mostly nude. She asked if I wanted to help her shave her legs. I said nah. That's kind of weird and wandered off. That's a weird hint. Just saying. In a pretty nice but fairly clueless guy's apartment one afternoon, just hanging out, making increasing hints that I'd like to get naked and play cowgirl. After about an hour he said he needed to step out. And as I was getting ready to leave, I basically blocked his hallway and mentioned that I'd never gotten the tour of his place before. He nodded, pointed out the kitchen and the living room. I rolled my eyes and mentioned how nice it would be to see his bedroom. Obligingly, he pointed out the open door of the room and said, "There it is," and then asked if we could get together later in the week. Sigh, sure. 2 hours later it must have sunk in what I was going after, because I got a frantic call asking me to come back to his place. He'd be happy to give me that tour. Sorry, Kevin, but I really did have to meet my folks for dinner that night. I wasn't just making excuses. When I was a young teenager, a girl told me she was going to take a shower and asked if I wanted to join her. I just laughed it off, because obviously she must have been joking. Right? I still kick myself for that one. I had a girl keep sending my topless pics while she was home alone, but she was pointing out how long her hair was. I was like, "Yeah, your hair is pretty long, lol." I woke up around 2 in the morning kicking myself for not getting the very obvious hints. A other time with a complete different girl on our first date, we were watching Ant-Man. I remember joking around saying I could do that about dumb things, making her laugh. Well, when the kissing scene came she asked, "Can you do that?" while close to my face. I was like, "Man, I don't know. I might have to practice and then watch the movie." When I dropped her off and was driving home and had to slap myself. Guy here. I was walking a friend home one evening and I mentioned to her that I am quite oblivious about when a girl likes me. I said a girl could smack me on the head and I wouldn't realize she was into me. She then smacked me on the back of my head and I responded with, "Ow. What the hell was that for, dart?" This thread has taught me that I need flashing neon signs around my naked body if I want my boyfriend to get the message. Edit. Jesus Christ people, it's a joke, stop blowing up my inbox. Edit 2. I have now received so many comments that I can no longer read the comments on my mobile. Posting for my wife, as she's not a redditor. When we first met, I was still a smoker. She brought in cigarettes the next day. She's never smoked, to give herself an excuse to be around me. She wore the lowest cut top I've ever seen, and when we were alone together she'd often say she really needed a massage. I went back to hers one evening to help her with her studies. And despite her changing to her underwear part way through, that's exactly what I did. It took me 2 weeks of this to finally click on. And man, our dents. Before my now wife and I started dating, she messaged me, "I want you." My response? Good to know. Lucky that it ended up working out. Very lucky. I will keep posting this every time I see this topic. Ladies, hints are not universal. Your hints are not the same as other women's hints. One woman's flirting is another woman's just being friendly. For every woman complaining about a guy missing the obvious hint, there's another woman complaining about how her friendliness is always mistaken for flirting. Unless you are literally getting naked or touching his pen 15. I guarantee that whatever your hint is, it has been done by another woman who wasn't interested in him. Edit. I'm not telling women to grab a pen 15 without consent. I'm just pointing that no pen 15 grabbing will ever be done by the woman who is just being friendly. Meta nice. Interesting. Funny boy at a bar, still living at home. Relevant. And we talked for a good hour or two. He walked me to the train station. And it turns out I just missed the last train home. I said, "Gee, too bad you live with your parents. I could totally crash at your place." He said it's fine and we headed back. He made me up the spare bed at the other end of the house and said goodnight. After a while I texted him saying I couldn't sleep. Did he want company? So we hung out in his room. He invited me into his bed since I looked uncomfortable sitting next to it. We spent the night together in a single bed without a single thing happening. I'd only ever been with one guy, so I just figured I had no mojo. Turns out he was trying to be respectful since he really liked me. And we ended up dating for 5 years. The day my husband, then friend, went to tell me he was into me and wanted to officially start dating, he was super nervous. Since he prompted the date and discussion, I was going to let him start it off and then I'd just be like, yes, me too. While he was unable to communicate for about 10 minutes and was skirting it due to being super nervous, I flat out told him, "You're not going to be rejected. Just say it." I must have said it at least 3 times before I gave up and just kissed him. My first boyfriend was like that with literally everything I did. I knew he liked me and I liked him, so I started dropping hints for 5 months before I finally just asked him out. I made plans for us to hang out together one-on-one. Always flirted with him. Even went as far as making sure I sat next to him on every school trip, high school, and laid my head on his shoulder and hugged him as much as I could. I even said to his face, "I would date you in a heartbeat." When I asked him out, he seemed surprised. 2. My husband now can be clueless sometimes. 2. Like I will walk out of the bedroom naked or in lingerie and he will just look at me, make a comment about me being sexy and teasing him, then go back to whatever he was doing, usually playing video games. I just have to tell him when I want 6 lol. Quick edit since this got a lot of responses. Yes, I give my husband other signs I want to have 6. I'm not an idiot. I will kiss him, rub his back sensually, even straddle him and show off what I am wearing, if anything at all, and he will sometimes still think I am just teasing and don't actually want to do anything. We have it worked out so that verbally communicating that consent is being given to go forward is the best method for us. I honestly just wanted to keep this kind of brief and thought it would be buried amongst all the other responses anyway. The first time I went out with my current GF, we spent the entire day getting drunk. Toward the end of the day she started saying things like, "Can we go back to your house and watch a movie, and I don't want to go to another bar." Maybe we can do something else. In my head I was thinking, is this she trying to tell me something? Probably not. Thankfully I eventually picked up on it. Guy here. Went to a concert with an old friend and got drunk. She is from out of town and crashing in my guest room. We get home and she asks if I wanted to cuddle. I shrugged and said sure, why not. Lay in bed ready to fall asleep and she grabs my big dick. In my head I was like, oh cuddle. Chatting with him on FB every single day for 3 months. Inviting him to things. Giving him tickets to sports games. 3 months later he grabbed my hand to help me off a curb and I didn't let go. Suddenly he got it. 5 years later we're still together. I'm less subtle now. I'll just grab his big dick. Went out for breakfast on Valentine's Day a few years back. Treat yourself kinda thing. I had a odd morning already from dealing with a break-in at a rental property I was looking after while my parents were out of town. Guy at the rental was weird, so I was mostly still thinking about that whole situation. Not really focused on reality. Finished breakfast and was paying at the diner till. And the lovely young lady at the till asked me if I had any plans for the rest of my day. Work, I replied. How about tomorrow, Sunday? Working on a project for school. How about Monday, a holiday? Studying for a midterm. 2 hours later I was chatting with a co-worker about our respective days. And as I was telling them about my day, it finally sank in that women do not ask your plans for the next 2 days just because. Edit. And now my lurker as highest commenters about this story. Thanks all. Bo. When I was in high school, a girl from my class said I should come over and study in her bedroom with her. I was like, nah, I don't really care if I fail the math test anyways. Whoops. I also did fail the math test. When I was in my early 20s I was kinda sorta dating this girl. I remember feeling like she wasn't that into me, so I just kinda faded away and quit talking to her. I remember seeing her post stuff online like, I hate it when you meet someone new and they just quit talking to you. I never put 2 and 2 together and realized she was referring to me until years later. My current BF and I met through Tinder. The conversation had been going pretty well, so we decided to meet up at a bar for some drinks. A drink and some chips later. The bar was closing, so we walked around the car park and into the warehouse, pretty much the New Zealand version of Walmart. We ended up in the book section reading the steamy parts of romance novels to each other and having a good laugh. He then showed off his car and drove me back to where mine was parked. Despite all of my flirting, he didn't make a single move. I left feeling fairly disheartened. I texted him when I got home saying I got back safe, and he replied with, I feel like I should have kissed you, to which I told him that's what I'd wanted. Fast forward a few days. I drove to his house with pizza. Cuddled up with him to watch a movie. And just before I had to leave I decided that I had to make the move. Been together ever since. But I won't let him live it down. Literally put his hand on my bob. It wasn't until I got my clothes off that he got the damn hint. Edit. Since there seems to be a little confusion. We had conversations about our relationship. Knew where it was heading. He was concerned about consent on my part, so I had to make it blatantly obvious. I was at a club in college. 2 girls come up to me. Smiling that I'm drunk and horny smile. They unbutton my shirt. And say, wow, that's a beautiful necklace. I was like, haha, yay. And walked over to my friends and Ubered home. Still kick myself. This will probably never see the light of day, but here's my fun story. Guy here who was just a bit late on the hint. I was really into this girl in high school. One day our friend group was getting milkshakes after finals week was over, and as everyone was leaving she said that she was going to go home and that nobody would be there. She then turned to me. And in front of all of our friends. Said, hey Gerbat, why don't you come keep me company? Stupidly I said no and walked by to my house. About 2 blocks from my house I sat down for a few minutes to think over my life. A long time ago I ran into my then extremely fit, extremely attractive neighbor one night, and we got into a conversation about how crappy our fridges were. After a few minutes she asked me if I wanted to come in and check out her fridge. I was like, dang. This lady really wants to talk about her fridge. I guess I'll be a good neighbor and listen for a while. I know. So I went inside and she proceeded to show me her fridge while standing really close to me. I remember thinking, dang. This lady has no concept of personal space. I honestly thought she just wanted to talk about her fridge. For some reason it never dawned on me that no sane woman would ever invite a virtual stranger back to their apartment if they weren't interested in doing something fun and dirty. Or murder. But she wasn't the type. Needless to say, I left about 5 minutes after entering. Edit. Thank you so much for the gold and silver. Kind strangers. I'm shy and bad at making moves, so I bake them cookies and other sweets until the end of days. I had a girl recently find out that I live close to her. She said she should come over some night to play PS4 and grab a cup of tea in case it's not common slang, but said she wouldn't be free until around 11 PM. I told her it was alright. I only had one controller anyway. She hasn't talked to me as much since. Let's just say I'm done making hints to my boyfriend. I never realized how oblivious a guy could be until I was topless on top of him and grinding on him. And he still didn't try anything. I appreciate him for it though. I know he doesn't try anything out of fear I might feel violated or something.